In the previous video, we talked about Kubernetes objects. The most important Kubernetes object is a pod. A pod is the most basic unit that can be deployed to a Kubernetes cluster. A pod consists of one or more containers. The most basic use case for Kubernetes is to deploy a single container per pod. However, there are scenarios where you would want multiple containers in a pod. For example, if you have a container that processes weather data, you could have another container that downloads weather data and puts it in a place that is accessible by both the containers. If a pod hosts multiple containers, they are always located on the same node and are scheduled together. The pod also has its own unique IP, and all the containers within the pod share the same IP address and ports. Think of containers within the pod as sharing a Linux namespace. Multiple containers within a pod can access shared data, and data can be persisted using persistent volumes, which we'll look at later. The pods are managed by a controller, and if one pod crashes, the controller immediately creates a new pod. Horizontal scaling of applications is achieved by creating multiple instances of the pod. The multiple instances are hosted on one or more nodes. A replica set is used to specify the number of instances. The controller ensures that the cluster contains the exact number of instances of the pod as specified in the replica set. One thing to note about the pod is that it does not store data permanently. The file space within the pod is available as long as the pod is alive. If a pod dies, its data goes away too, and a new pod created will not have the data. To persist data, use a persistent volume or a stateful set, which we'll look at later. In the next video, we will look at namespaces and some hands-on tutorial too, so that you can fire up your laptop again and get working. See you in the next video.